Once upon a time, there was a society where everyone was the same. The people of society had a list of rules they had created. They were not laws, just rules to make sure everyone stayed in line. Strangers stayed strangers, fun was constrained. People had to fight for themselves, only allowed to get help from the public through a screen. Humans forgot what it meant to be human. If anyone in society broke these normalities, you would be labeled outcast. This society was called America. Social normalities are created by you. Yes, you, and all the people around you. As we go through life, we are constantly shifting our views of what is strange and uncomfortable for something that is acceptable. Sometimes these social normalities are good, and other times not so much. I sat down with PhD student Hannah Robbins to understand if she thought that social norms were a good thing or a bad thing. What is the difference between social norms that have positive versus negative impacts?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely can be both like aspects of social norms. I think in terms of positive aspects, they keep us safe, and like social norms, like things like decency, for example, not like physically hitting someone at the grocery store because they took the last box of cereal you wanted, things like that. That's like, those are good things. And social norms create general guidelines for kind of the way that we live our lives. So yeah, I think social norms can be harmful in like a few different ways. I think on a basic level, when social norms of a community are kind of extremely rigid, they might result in like unnecessary kind of ostracizing of people that stray away from them.
Despite social norms' positive or negative impacts, people blatantly follow them. So, I'm gonna break one. I decided to test out what would happen if I crowdsourced in a busy store. Have you ever been torn on whether you wanted to buy an item or not, but were too nervous to ask the people around you? Excuse me? Can I get everyone's attention, please? I need a consensus on whether I should get this dress or not. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. All in favor of no, raise your hand. Thank you, everybody, for your help. What was your initial reaction when I asked the store about the dress?
What is that girl doing?
Have you ever seen anything like that before?
No. And it's a little odd.
All I asked was for the people around me to help me out with a simple decision, and yet people were weirded out and felt it was odd. We have isolated ourselves from the strangers that live around us, and in turn, when we try to dissolve that barrier, we are met with judgment. However, when people hold an open mindset, the same type of communication can be seen in a different light, as uplifting or as happy. So, what was your initial reaction when I asked everyone in the store?
No, it's okay.
Never seen anything.
I'm happy.
Some of our social fears people are not scared to conquer when hidden behind a screen. On apps such as Wishbone, users download to purely ask and voice their opinions when making a decision between two options. So when faced with the brutally difficult task of choosing which chips to purchase, why is it uncommon to ask strangers in a grocery store face to face? Let's try it out, because sometimes you just want all the chips. Excuse me, everyone. I'm having trouble deciding between the Ruffles and the tortillas. Raise your hand if you think I should get the Ruffles. Ruffles. Raise your hand for tortillas. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Are you going to share or what?
So, what was your initial reaction when I first asked the store about what chips to get?
Well, at first I didn't know why he was hollering, but when I saw the chips, I already saw the tortillas, and I always get tortillas. Ruffles are good, but...
Was it an uncomfortable question to ask?
No?
And have you ever seen anyone ask a question like that to a big store before?
I could say I never have.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think it's a social norm to not do that?
Because everybody's kind of uptight, and like everybody's too serious most of the time.
With everyone so uptight, it is rare to see people coming out of their comfort zones. But yet, we come out of our comfort zones all the time on social media. So, is social media and technology a help or a hindrance? Let's see what Hannah has to say.
I honestly would say different communities are more interconnected now than ever, and that kind of provides a platform for like exchange of ideas and exposure to different opinions or information. But I think there obviously can be pitfalls to communicating over social media too. Maybe like our generation, for example, like communicates a lot via like text and via Instagram, and we might see down the line that has kind of consequences for social interactions in different ways.
In life, we all have a common goal. No, not to be rich and famous or married to a young Leonardo DiCaprio. Well, that too. But our common goal is to be happy. Social norms tend to cause us to restrain our happiness. Why can't I dance in the middle of a parking lot if that will make me happy? Why can't I wear a dress to Dick's Sporting Goods or a supermarket if that will make me feel pretty? I mean, after all, I need to look good for Leonardo DiCaprio. But wait, I can. No, we're just wearing them because we like how they look.
Okay.
And why do you think that it's a social norm to not dress up if you want to just look good to go out?
I don't know. We usually dress up for an occasion. Like you're trying to be cute for something.
And why do you think that is? If we're just feeling good and we just want to go out? Not sure?
Pretty.
Thank you. Oh shit. She just looked us up and down. Do you see people in like dresses and dips often?
No.
And why do you think that is?
Ooh. Probably because they're not very like sports oriented.
And why do you think that it's a norm that if you feel good about yourself and want to get like dressed up and ready that you can't go out to whichever place you want and have it be normal?
I feel like it should be normal. I feel like it should be.
If everyone ignored the looks of the people around them shaped by social normalities and just lived life for themselves, society would be a lot more accepting place overall. So keep your eye out for me. I'll be the girl dancing in your local parking lot. My brother Drew, too, set out to live up his internal happiness. We saw a man stretching at the beach. He looked happy and peaceful, and so Drew decided to go up to him and stretch beside him and gauge his reaction. When Drew came up and started their expression with
I figured he did yoga before, and then he was just kind of probably doing a little quick video. Not really mocking me or anything, because I don't really worry about it.
Did you find it uncomfortable or unusual in any way?
No, I just thought he was being a kid, having fun.
And why do you think that it's
I think people lost touch with reality. I think that they're afraid to be themselves. They're worried about what everyone thinks all the time instead of just being human. Very normal reaction.
Aside from being emotionally dangerous, social norms can be physically dangerous. Why do you think that it's less cool to wear a helmet, and at which point in your life did this begin?
It's not cool to wear a helmet because nobody really does it, and it's like looks kind of weird, and it's just not really what people do. And it kind of started this year, and this year everyone kind of stopped wearing helmets.
Do you think it's more important to follow social normalities and not wear a helmet, or to be safe?
Social normalities, because I feel like you want to not get made fun of and stuff, and it's pretty important for that not to happen.
Yeah, and you don't want your classmates saying oh, he's wearing.
Social normalities have a hold over us. Like a greater power, they control our actions and often trump what should take priority. Why do people always comply with social norms?
So I think, there's a few different ways you can kind of think about that. I think from an evolutionary perspective, humans really have the incentive to follow social norms to kind of remain well established in their community. And we might even be punished for acting in ways that are inconsistent with those norms. So I think those patterns of behavior become kind of reinforced and ingrained over time.
With social norms, safety becomes a second-tier importance, as well as face-to-face communication. Take a moment to think about it. When was the last time you went up to a random stranger, introduced yourself, and made a new friend? So we went to Boston College, and we decided to do just that.
Hey, how are you guys? Where are we walking to?
Huh?
Are we going somewhere, walking to the library? What are you going to do there?
Study.
Oh, that's exciting. I don't like studying.
Oh, really?
It's really boring. What are you studying for?
Finals.
Oh, that's annoying. What classes?
5 of them.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
That's an exciting day. Hey guys, where are we going?
Weird. The upper.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting.
I know, it's the most exciting moment of my life.
What is that upper? What is that?
Like the dorms.
Oh, that's exciting. I go back to your room.
Why do you feel like people have trouble making connections and coming up to people and asking things like where are they going and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, it's just out of place. At least, introduce yourself first.
Yeah.
Say, hey, my name is Sasha, blah, blah, blah. I'm from so-and-so, and then segue into that. But, a question like that, I feel like we need to be more engaged.
Yeah,
before.
it's kind of more personal question.
Yeah.
And what's your definition of personal questions versus public information, and what breaks down those grounds?
Well, I mean, I don't know. That's a pretty loaded question. But I guess we could say, I don't know, just location, certain personal facts, age, that kind of stuff.
I feel like once you introduce yourself to someone, you can ask more questions, but if you don't even know their name, it's kind of hard
Yeah,
to interact. Yeah.
You need to break a certain social barrier before you can kind of inquire more,
Let's take our new friend's advice and rewind, disintegrate the barrier, and introduce ourselves.
Oh, so what are you doing? Oh, that's cool. Do you play basketball a lot?
No, not really. This is kind of my first time.
So how did you feel when I first came up to you and started talking?
I was a little caught off guard first, but everything was pretty simple, so I answered the questions.
And why do you think that it's a social norm to not come up to random people and try to make connections?
I guess part of it's a lot of people like to do their own things, and a lot of times people are all over their phones and often distracted from what's going on around them.
And did you think that by introducing myself and saying my name, it changed the way that the interaction went?
Yeah, I believe so. It was a little bit more casual.
Saying our names and introducing ourselves to a stranger proved to be effective in making a connection. So next time you go out, I challenge you to do this and introduce yourself. Although this is harder to do on some people than others. What is the psychology inherent in not being able to break out of your comfort zone?
So I think, in terms of talking to strangers and things like that, we're kind of socialized to perceive strangers in a certain way. We're told not to talk to them growing up, and doing so, especially in a way that might be outside a social norm for a given cultural context, it's kind of taking a risk. There's not really a precedent to give an individual evidence of what might happen. So it's kind of an unknown.
For everyone watching, why aren't you personally able to break out of your comfort zones? For Elizabeth Koplan, she was given the challenge of approaching a stranger and introducing herself, but refused to do it.
So when asked to break some of these social norms and the ways that I was interacting with people, I think I just felt really nervous and uncomfortable about the feeling of being judged for doing things that fall outside of regular societal expectations. And even though I knew that some of those, taking on some of those things should be completely normal, nobody was getting hurt, there was nothing offensive about it, you should be able to act comfortably with other people, there was something that just stopped me saying this just isn't what people do. And actually even gets scarier when it's in a bigger group of people. So for instance, I was at the Cheesecake Factory and I had a splitting headache and I was dying for an Advil, but I didn't have one. And I thought to myself, oh, I wish I could just stand up and yell, does anyone have an Advil? And I'm sure if anybody had an Advil there, they would have been more than happy to help out somebody who had a headache. But even that, I couldn't bring myself to do that because you don't do that in society. So instead I spent the dinner and I had a headache during dinner. It should have been something that was very avoidable. But honestly, in the future, I want to push myself to step outside of some of these boundaries and make more independent choices.
For people like Elizabeth, I dare you to do something that makes you uncomfortable, this week or this lifetime. Society has become a copy-paste of the same people following the same programming. When people start to step outside the lines, slowly that programming begins to rewire. If we stand together to make these changes, all of a sudden the word outcast loses its meaning. In the process of defunding this word, you can even get help in making decisions, look like the prize of the supermarket, or make a new connection. If everyone starts focusing on the outcome rather than the people judging the process, our society will be a whole lot freer and happier. Break those social norms.